What's up, bit? Digital Foundry here, talking about that PS quintuple. Not talking about that Series X. Series X? John, you've got to help me out here.
Yeah, that's not working, is it?
But it is a momentous occasion. PlayStation 5. I mean, if there was an event worthy of the resurrection of the mighty Chad Warden, it would be this. It's the day after the event. We've had some sleep, we've had some thoughts, we've had some pixel counts of what we saw. And yeah, we're going to talk about it. Yes, and obviously I'm here, John's here, and Alex Battaglia.
Hey, how you doing there, Rich and John? I didn't have as much sleep as you probably had, but I'm here, all right.
Okay, well, what we're going to do with this one is a little bit different from a normal Digital Foundry Direct. We're going to revisit the actual live stream and basically talk about what we thought about it. And in this way, we can ensure maximum coverage of everything that was in it, and we don't miss out on any of the details. So I guess, gentlemen, we should just dive in.
Yeah, let's do it.
So yeah, here we are when it's a white box. At first I thought they were going to start with Gran Turismo, actually.
I thought they would start by showing the machine.
I thought this would be morphing into the PlayStation 5 eventual design, but...
Or wait, actually, isn't this the room with the crying baby in the PS3?
Actually, it kind of is.
I think
maybe
it
a
might
bit
be.
wider, but yeah.
Yeah.
There's something kind of a theme throughout this entire video is each single segment is transitioned with the logo or like the face buttons of a PlayStation pad being arranged in some weird order.
I like this, actually. I think these little visualizations between each section are cool, and it gives it like a nice sense of style.
The other thing is that they couldn't have actually done anything that's along the lines of a traditional E3, but with the current situation. So to get these nice rendered sequences done up as kind of intermissions between the content actually works really well, I think.
I was genuinely worried that they were going to do that thing where the state of play where they just basically copied the Nintendo Direct, like exactly. I don't really think that those are great. So, this is cool.
Yeah, this is much like they started the PS4 conference with like the pad on the back. Look at this years of, different varieties of games that we've had, which is one of the best parts of this conference so far, even just to get a little bit ahead of myself, is the variety of games on showing.
Yeah. It is interesting that they're starting here with PS4 footage mostly to like sort of, I guess, get people excited. But I also noticed, so as we edit a lot of videos, we use the PS4 logo in many of those videos, and it's funny to see the slight difference in how Sony approaches that by basically they set the opacity lower.
Yeah, right.
So it's like slightly transparent. It's hard to know if that's good or bad. I think for us, we need it at full brightness.
Yeah, so people can notice it right off the bat.
So in the PlayStation 4 reveal, I was complaining about friction, and they've got to the point a fair bit faster this time around. But this is kind of ultimate foaling, right?
I had no idea what this was about.
When I saw this, I was like, wait, did they put on the wrong press conference? Did they upload the wrong file?
Yeah, this is an old trailer, more or less, and it's also rendered what looks at 1080p and probably what I would assume are console settings from like last-gen consoles.
Well, it says PS4 there.
Yeah?
So it's not PS5 footage.
What a shame.
But also the PS4 logo is poorly aligned there with the frame. I don't like that. Yeah, okay, this really was like the weirdest way to start a conference like this that I may have seen ever.
You see, the announcement is actually pretty good. They've got PlayStation 5 version of GTA 5 and GTA Online, and that's still a huge game, and I think they're talking about enhancements and stuff. But instead of telling us about that, they're showing us like library footage of the PS4 game. So as a way to kick off the future of gaming on a PS5 conference, it's difficult not to feel a bit sort of befuddled about what they're trying to do here. It's baffling. Why? I mean, weird. I don't get it.
That shot looks horrible.
Yeah, especially like we kind of knew a lot of the stuff that was going to be in this show, and a lot of it's really awesome, and it's exactly what we were waiting for. So it felt like this was a very strange way to kick things off. And here's the controller, which everybody thought, oh, it's going to be black based on the but instead of the black-white combo that we got. And I wonder if we will see an all-black PS4 or PS5, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case. At least not right away. I don't think
the design would probably favor it. It seems to have been built around that two-tone design.
Maybe reverse it? I don't know.
Oh yeah, like checkerboard it, maybe.
Checkerboard?
No. Like, make the outside shell black and the internal white. I don't know. I'm not sure how that would look.
Bit penguin-y looking.
You want a checkerboarded PS5, Alex?
I've just been working on this checkerboard video. It's all I can think about, yeah.
But yeah, you can tell just based on the way our conversation is going thus far that they haven't shown, it's a weird way to start it, but they're going to get into this. So we got Jim Ryan here, and we thought watching these, if you watch their shirt wrinkles and everything and the slight weirdness with the way they look in these scenes, we were actually guessing that they were going to say that all these guys were rendered on PS5.
One thing, it's because probably they have like an extremely bright flat light in front of them.
Yeah,
which is like
like
washing out
their
details, which makes it look kind of fakeish. It's the Joachim Mogren effect from Metal Gear Solid 5's reveal, if you remember that. Is he real?
Yeah.
Is he fake?
That's right.
I don't want to say what I said back then, but I thought he was fake.
So on PS4, it took us 48 minutes to get to actual worthwhile show-stopping content, and I'm pleased to say that they got there a lot quicker this time around.
Well, they just cut out that 45 minutes because the show is much shorter. Okay, so they got this new PlayStation Studios logo going on that they talked about recently. Okay, yeah, and then you see this, and it's like, okay, they're opening with Spider-Man.
Yeah, it was like really obvious right from the get-go. One thing that I noticed, since we were watching this I still don't understand the reason for it, 1080p 30 stream, namely the 30 FPS part. There was a lot of macro blocking when I watched this live due to like the particles and everything like that in this scene. It was really not a good looking stream in the end, and did, I'm assuming, a huge disservice to a majority of these games, which, as we're going to talk about, look to be much higher than 1080p resolution. So
yeah, and is this a sequel?
It's
is this actually Spider-Man 2?
I think it's like something. I think you said it last night, like Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, where it's like a side project that's probably
or infamous.
Yeah, I think that's the way it's coming across, because it's not announced as Spider-Man 2, which would kind of set it apart from the first one. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that immediately the question I asked is it 60 frames per second? And that's basically what I was asking throughout the entire presentation. We just don't know when the stream is of that quality. And as you said, Alex, the actual bit rate, the macro blocking on it, just looked awful. I mean, if you're going to be showing the future of gaming, doing it at 1080p 30 with a really low bitrate stream, it's not good.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the problem, is we saw this with the PS4 Pro reveal and Xbox One X as well, especially, where they're just like, it's really hard to appreciate this detail from a stream. And that goes doubly for something like this. So this is Gran Turismo 7. This is a 60 frames per second game, and the trailer,
of course,
the actual trailer is also 60, of course, but in the stream, it's hard to appreciate what's going on. And we were looking, I think, for reflections here.
Yeah, one thing that's speaking of that, like one thing that's interesting about that shot right there, obviously the reflection is on the left and right hand side. I'm presuming they're going to be ray traced, but there's like self reflections on the cars here, which I'm pretty sure,
and the floor there. That's interesting.
That's something that is not really often seen in racing games. Last one I can really think of is like Drive Club or any of the games that used SSR, but self reflections are always a dead giveaway for that. They're not just using the usual cube map captures or planar reflections.
Exactly.
But I would say that shot of the mirrors along the sides of the car kind of turning, that's something that you could really only get probably with something that is like ray traced reflections.
And I kind of feel like ray traced reflections are exactly the thing that this development team would want to implement in this game.
Oh yeah, completely.
Because the visual set otherwise doesn't seem like that much of a leap over Sport, although the detail on the cars, obviously very high, but it was also high in Sport. So it feels like implementing those, RT reflections is a very smart use of the resources of the system here.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see whether or not that is also 100% used in gameplay always, or if it's kind of like GT before it, where like the graphics get way better during the replay mode, or like the cinematic replay mode. That should be interesting to see.
Yeah, exactly, and I think it seems feasible to me though, because there's not usually that many cars on screen at once.
Yeah,
and
right?
if you're only using RT reflections on just cars.
Yeah,
that seems feasible.
Yeah, and I don't think there's probably going to be a lot of like puddles on the road or something like that necessarily. Or you could just literally also only have it to the first car, like your car in front of you, and then every other car could use the cube map reflections while you're
exactly.
And
exactly.
you wouldn't.
There's
you wouldn't
ways. We'll see.
There's ways, because like obviously like if you're going, one thing I noticed when playing Battlefield 5 is when you go through forests like this here in this shot right here, forests are really hard for RT reflections because transparencies and ray tracing are kind of really expensive, like transparencies and rasterization. So we just gotta wait to see the game, I guess, there in that case. But other than the fact that was 30 FPS, it looked all right, you know. At least 30 FPS on the stream here.
Yeah. Okay. Now this is the moment when I was like blown away. This demo here.
Yeah, I like
is stunning.
I love the geometric detail. That's the kind of interesting thing. Well, UE5 definitely showed off really high geometric detail by changing the pipeline of how geometry is done in games. It's not the only way to have really good looking geometry and detail, obviously. Traditional ways, like I'm presuming is done here, is really great looking.
This looks better than the Ratchet and Clank film, by the way.
Oh yeah. Also, notice the reflection on the bottom of Clank's jaw of his like lower part of his. So like one thing that they mentioned after this is that at least on Clank himself, there's ray traced reflections. Obviously, for the rest of the game, that's something that I need to like examine the trailer a lot more, spend a lot more time on to see where it's in use. Yeah.
But I think the real big thing is this sort of dimensional warping system.
Yeah.
Which is absurd. I think that is this is the first example we've seen that we can show to people immediately and sort of give them an idea of what the faster storage solution can enable.
Yeah, this is the next gen difference, right? I mean, this is something that you wouldn't be able to do on the PlayStation 4. This is a system exclusive.
Exactly. And there are like sort of skips and such. You can see pitching as it moves between, which to me is actually a good thing in this case, because one, I don't think Insomniac will ship a game with those problems, but two, it also suggests that it's more, it is actually like realistic.
Oh, I like that too. The fact that it did hitch, it shows that it's real. One thing that's interesting to notice is I would imagine that there's like two different sequences of how this works. It looks like there's like on-railed sequences where you're going through all these, like where it's really quickly transporting you to all these places where it's streaming in these huge assets. But then like it looks like in the normal base gameplay, it's kind of like a portal system. So that's the way it looks to me. There's like two differences. And
that makes sense because you wouldn't actually be able to want to have the player sort of jump between levels constantly. Like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, who knows how fun it would be.
Exactly. So I think like mixing it up in that way is really interesting and could lead to some good stuff. And so he's talking about this here, and then they're going to show a little more gameplay. But this is exciting because one, I love Ratchet and Clank games, and I think cartoony style graphics, as we'll see, are a great way to showcase what you can do on this new hardware. And then beyond that, I think I'm very happy that Sony is opening with games like this, bright, cartoony, kind of almost like throwback games, but with a new spin thanks to the enhanced technology. Like that's really exciting to me.
Yeah, I think more cartoony graphics lend themselves well to looking more like CGI, where you see less of the faults in general. So like this looks, as a result, really, really, really good. Not like the last Ratchet and Clank games didn't look good. In fact, they looked a lot like this in a lot of ways. They looked really, really good as well too, I would say. But yeah, that's like one of the first instances of like that portal teleportation, which looks cool.
Also, the particles there, really nice. We have some reflections here. It seems like some objects are excluded from those reflections. Could they be planar, or you think they're doing RT as well there?
I would hope they're doing RT here.
Or maybe just excluding objects from the BVH, perhaps?
Yeah, that's what it looks like, because like it seems like certain objects in the distance, like you can see there, like the boxes and things like that are like out of it. Or like some of the, like the staircase here is gone. Like you can't see like the thing in front of the portal behind them. I'll point these out when I stop it later. But
those do look like ray trace reflections, don't they?
Yeah,
actually,
that
I think
like,
they are
level of like noisy grain that you can see from like lower resolution ones.
So the thing is Insomniac was always known for using really cool techniques in these games. Like if you go back to the first PlayStation 3 game, which was 60 FPS, by the way.
Oh my gosh, yeah, right.
They had a ton of parallax occlusion maps in there. Remember when we discovered that? Alex?
Yeah, and we were like,
wait a minute, there was palm everywhere.
Yeah, palm everywhere, 60 FPS, great looking particles, cool animations. This, though, I think if it's going to follow, it's going to be 30. And just one thing I want to point out before everything, goes crazy with all the great looking games later on, which all look excellent. I think the games that look the most generationally different are the ones that I would imagine are going to be 30 FPS.
Exactly. And we got to get in here before this trailer is over, but Tom helped us get some pixel counts.
Yeah, thank you, Tom.
Late at night when we were
1
already
in the
sleeping
morning.
thanks to the time zone difference. And he confirmed this is native 4K.
Well, from my perspective, it's like they're nailing their colours to the mast here. This is using the generational increase in GPU power to deliver extra fidelity, not 60 frames per second. I think in this case, it definitely pays off because it just looks absolutely phenomenal, and I just can't wait to play it.
And also, like, Insomniac's motion blur is second to none. It looks so smooth in motion.
Yeah.
We saw it in Spider-Man and Ratchet on PS4,
Really
and it's going to be here. So, what's next? More cool CGI.
More cool CGI logos spinning.
I like these. I really think this is cool stuff. Like, this is neat.
You see, what I liked about that showing Ratchet is that they did actually show extended gameplay. In that sense, it's kind of reminiscent of the Killzone reveal from PS4. We kind of lose that as we go further into this presentation.
Yeah.
We lose gameplay, and I think that's a real shame.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
So this is interesting because it mentioned like Luminous Studio or something, or like whatever they said at the beginning
or something.
Luminous Productions, which references the name of their engine that was used for Final Fantasy 15, and I wonder if it's gonna return. I hope so.
Yeah, I really love Final Fantasy 15's engine and graphics in general, and honestly, there's like no motion blur here, which is interesting to point out.
This immediately reminds me of Final Fantasy 15. Actually,
it looks a lot like it. The only thing, also, there's like the shadows on the clouds from that like projecting scraper, like skyscraper looking object there, which is really cool. I'm a little worried about this because project games or project things from Square Enix tend to not actually exist for a long period of time or never come out.
Exactly.
But
we'll see.
We'll see. The smoke there looked cool. I just want to say, don't know how it's done, obviously, because it's a 2D trailer.
That's the issue. Is that was such a short little thing. It felt like just too much of a tease. Mm-hmm. Okay, now this I absolutely adore. The look of this right here is so beautiful.
One thing is, I remember years ago, and I sent it to you during the conference, is that there was a game demo that a developer was making called like Alley Cat, and it had this exact same design of like a cat in like what looks like Hong Kong back alleys almost, and it was like noir. Yeah. I'm curious if this is the exact same developer.
So that's what I'm wondering. Yeah. And by the way, this is also native 4K.
Yeah.
But the fidelity of everything in these scenes, I think, is really exceptional. It looks really well rendered.
One thing is, I'm curious if those, they kind of look like RT reflections there on the mirror there specifically. And like when the legs get in front of the other guys behind them there, that doesn't cause like that obscurance problem with SSR that we see, which we can see in other trailers here, but not this one.
Yeah, we will see. We will comment on that later. But yeah, I think those do look like ray trace reflections.
Great use of color too.
I think based on the bit of ray tracing we've seen in this presentation, I think it's exactly kind of what we expected.
Mm-hmm.
Where selective use of RT features.
Yeah, selective use, 30 FPS targets, great looking cat model.
Subsurface scattering on his ears too.
Oh yeah,
I think I saw there. That was nice.
The thing is though, native 4K with ray tracing in first generation games, I'm kind of blown away, to be honest. We first saw RT with the RTX cards in 2018. If we'd known back then that we'd be seeing this, a couple of years later, I just don't think we could have anticipated this.
I think you're right.
I think back then I was thinking, and up until more or less the confirmation that it was hardware-based ray tracing, that I was thinking they're going to use other things that are like ray tracing, like voxel cone tracing or something like that, which is kind of the direction Unreal Engine 5 went in. But it turns out that they're actually using, hardware triangle-based ray tracing, and already in the first-gen titles,
Yeah.
It's great.
Voxel cone tracing is really interesting, and we had that on PS4 already.
Yeah, right.
With the Tomorrow Children.
But the hardware blocks could accelerate all of that, right?
I guess it depends on what they're allowed to accelerate. If before the triangles are hit, there's these boxes around them, the AABB kind of intersection
BVH.
test, the BVH structure itself, which is boxes, which could be aligned, I guess, to a voxel grid. But you would still need triangles then, so you couldn't just do voxels.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think there's a way to hijack that pipeline to make it work for voxels.
Okay. So, here we go, Herman Holst. Yeah, I forgot that he was now head of Worldwide Studios, so I saw him here and I was like, oh, they're going to show Horizon next. But no.
It's a thing to get used to.
Okay, look at his shirt. Like, with the way it wrinkles, I kept thinking, looks like a normal map.
It's like those normal maps.
Like the way it almost snaps between two positions.
Yeah. It's like the Max Payne 3 normal maps on his clothing that would wrinkle.
Yeah, exactly. That's really funny. But no, that's him.
Obviously, not to get ahead of ourselves again, but Horizon Zero Dawn 2 looks pretty great.
It's not called Zero Dawn, is it?
No,
or
it's,
is it?
It's like Journey to the
like
West.
Horizon 2.
Something Wilderness.
No, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay. More first party. That's great. Oh yeah, Housemarque. So Alex, I remember at Gamescom a couple years ago, we actually spoke with the Housemarque guys.
Yeah, that was great.
And remember, they told us that they had some other larger project in development, but couldn't say what it was yet. So we just knew that they had something else in the works. And I would say that this is it.
Yeah, I think it is too. We talked to them about Stormdivers, which was an Unreal Engine 4 title. I'm curious about what this is technology-wise, because they obviously have their own in-house engine, which was used for very different types of games than this. So not like this close-up detailed action, but like top-down arcade with a lot of great particle effects, which is what they're known for.
Didn't they move on to Unreal Engine and then they overlaid their own effects engine on top of that?
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's
maybe.
what they did for
that's right.
the UE4 game for Stormdivers.
I mean, this does look incredible. Native 4K again.
Yeah, native 4K. The way they were cutting between her and the different sci-fi shots, though, initially made me think of Chorus.
That's a good
which
point.
was revealed during the Xbox thing, and I think that's multi-platform. But this is actually a lot more than that. This is very weird, and I'm into it.
Is this exclusive or multi-platform?
It's Housemarque, so wait, they've done multi-platform, haven't they?
Yeah, they did.
They're almost.
I'm pretty sure it's a single format release here because Herman introduced it.
Oh yeah.
Also, it had PlayStation Studios at the beginning, so this is definitely exclusive. And I hope this does well for them because I love Housemarque stuff. And this still looks like it has some of their arcade DNA in it as well. So
all the
you
shooting.
can see that with the way the action looks. It has that snappy kind of. Oh, that name though.
Returnal.
I'm not sure what to think of that yet.
It's like a play on Eternal Recurrence, I think, which is what she's experiencing.
Yeah.
But second game of the show where someone keeps dying and reliving their life over again, by the way, which is kind of funny.
It's a theme.
It's 2020.
It's a 30 FPS game based on the trailer that we saw. Unlike this.
So this is interesting. So based on the final thing, there's two things to take away. One, this is a 60 FPS game. And two, this is the one that came up as sub 4K. So we got shots around 2688 by 1512.
Which is strangely low resolution. But I guess it depends kind of if it is targeting 60 FPS.
That's okay. I mean,
that's all right. That's what we'd expect dynamic res setups for 60 FPS games. And so I always like dynamic resolution a lot.
Exactly.
I have no problem with it.
I also like the look of this because I always liked the Sackboy character, but the Little Big Planet games as games, they never played that well.
Mm-hmm.
It was the creation tool aspect, and they've always been basically two-dimensional games. And this looks like a proper...
Also been 30 FPS, right?
Oh, yeah. So this is a proper, like, 3D platform game, and it seems like it's multiplayer as well. I don't know if there's creation tools in it or not. They haven't said, but I kind of hope there's not.
Yeah, I kind of hope so too. It's nice sometimes to just play a game that ends.
Like we have Dreams, like that's, and I'm sure that'll appear on PS5. So let's just keep this as a platform game, and I think it will be because the set pieces and sequences look pretty complex.
So we know that Sumo has been working on a Little Big Planet game for years, and I actually thought it was actually finished by now and was kind of just sitting in the background. So the concept that it's now debuting finally on PlayStation 5, I'm wondering whether it is a cross-gen game, whether there is a PS4 version, or whether this is it. They migrated the project across to PS5. So I guess
I'm wondering as well.
We're going to have to wait.
It's hard to
see on that one.
That's, yeah.
I thought it looked great, by the way.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that. I'm into that.
I only wish the trailer was 60 FPS on the stream.
Well, I mean, it can't be because, you know, it's the same with Gran Turismo. Oh, here it is.
So this is another one, John.
The Lucid game.
Another one where we know that Lucid have been developing a PS5 game for years. We didn't know anything about it, what it was, what they're doing here. But we kind of heard that they were working on a first-party Sony PlayStation 5 game, and finally, years later, here it is.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the guys here are ex-Bizarre Creations developers. So they did like Blur, PGR, Geometry Wars, that kind of stuff. So there's some pedigree.
Yeah, one thing that's weird here, though, is that sometimes it looks like the frame rate is a little iffy. I mean, these are all going to be work-in-progress games that are going to run way better usually than they will at release. But I guess this is another 30 FPS targeting game?
Okay, so it is... It's hard to say. So what's weird, though, is that most of the trailer is native 4K, but there were a couple shots that came in at 1080p.
Huh.
Which makes me wonder, like, perhaps, like, is it cross-gen?
Yeah, and they're like...
Those PS4 shots? Like, I can't see them dropping all the way to 1080p. It seems bizarre. But it is, like you say, it's very work in progress, and any of the performance issues we've seen in games tonight, I would not presume that we'd see them when they launched. And in fact, I usually take that as like I said, as a sign of authenticity, because when games are still in development, even when you're doing trailers like this, unless you're like pre-rendering every element, you know, it gives you some indication that what you're seeing is real in development footage.
Yeah, one thing I liked about that one is, other than like the short little vignettes of the characters, it looked like actual gameplay shots. Like, because the camera, the way it was moving, it's kind of like a little bit hitchy.
Looks fun too.
Yeah.
Oh, so Ember Lab, like these guys wasn't this originally like a kickstarted game?
I kind of want to say it was.
Or maybe was that something else?
It's really easy to mix up Ember Labs and Embark.
Let's see what this is. Oh yeah, so this is one of the best looking things we saw.
Yeah, this was probably next to Horizon Zero Dawn 2. My favorite looking game in the trailer, mainly because it captures its art style in its text so well. Like there's like scarcely a polygon edge to be seen. The lighting is just really, I would say,
beautiful.
It's really great. You know, I don't see any like shadow map artifacts. Like everything's really high res. And I just really like
including the actual resolution, by the way. It is native 4K.
So I think this is cross-gen. So I think this is actually going to be coming. Yeah,
really?
I think it's been announced as PS4, PS5, and Epic Games Store, your favorite storefront there.
Oh my!
Yeah.
If this is PS4,
I don't see how you can. Yeah, I don't know how you're doing this on PS4. I mean, I don't know. Somehow the density of everything seems.
Yeah.
Like when they zoom in so closely, like it's so perfectly smoothed out.
Yeah, I also which makes me wonder if it is, you know, coming to that platform, how many compromises would have to be made, because like shots like that, like honestly, there's I don't see a PS4 game looking like this.
Well, but you know, we've seen many times
You
with
know?
the Switch. You know, you think, hey, I see Doom Eternal, looks incredible, super smooth frame rate as well. How's that going to work on the Switch? And it does, just compromised. That's the same with a ton of Switch ports. So
in terms
it's a
of
question of how.
engine, is this Unreal Engine 4? Or because like to me visually it looks very much so Unreal Engine.
Yeah, it does look very Unreal Engine.
Like the kite demo, if you remember that. Like there's a lot of that in here visually.
It also looks like Pikmin.
Yeah, that is cute, man. Is this that's great. That means it's coming to PC as well, which Epic Game Store, but still.
It makes me optimistic about cross-gen, I'll be honest with you. If we can get cross-gen titles looking that good on next-gen systems, it just makes me wonder
Right.
what's going to happen on, you know, base consoles though. And I guess fundamentally it's going to be a massive cut to resolution to get that done.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is weird.
Yeah, this is not sure what this is about necessarily.
You're just waiting for a sign
Kind of a Life is Strange style game is the way I kind of
Yeah.
to do
put it. Well, because they didn't really show much in the way of gameplay, or maybe it's like a text adventure almost.
Sometimes I feel
very
like
different.
I'm just standing
It's
on
kind of a
the
fun
edge
style.
things.
But it's just like,
So I think one of the successes of the PlayStation 4 reveal was that they opted in the indies. We saw some really good indie titles, and I think that's kind of the same spirit that maybe they're trying to recapture here, that PlayStation 5 isn't just for the AAA juggernauts, that it's also for
Yeah.
games of a different style, something for
I
everyone
like that
almost.
a lot too. The diversity of games shown on the stream is really cool. There's first-person shooters, third-person shooters, adventure games, RPGs, and what looks like, I would assume, is kind of like a role-playing adventure game with text. Is that I imagine this would be?
I don't know. I was thinking Life is Strange.
Yeah.
So
I think the issue
It's
for
hard to
me
tell
though
if
is
it's
that
gonna
if
be
you're
that.
trying to deliver the vision of the future of gaming, there's possibly too much content in here and not enough about the future of gaming. And also, you know, I'll just
Yeah.
reiterate what I said earlier. It kicked off really well with actual gameplay, and especially in the aftermath of the pretty disastrous Xbox conference or stream that we had a couple of weeks ago.
Mhm.
The big takeaway was that people want to see how the games run, how they look, and just a tiny little trailer style presentation just doesn't really work. So, you know, what do you actually
Yeah.
take
So-
away from that? Not much.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You don't load much. I would probably
Now-
prefer less content and more gameplay.
exactly. Now this one though, I played this last year at E3. I've seen bits of this before. I always wondered when I saw this, like, wait, how are they going to do this on PS4? Oddworld Soulstorm.
Yeah, right.
Mainly because, so it's difficult to see exactly what you're getting in the trailer, but the thing about this is it's a 2D game still, and you can command a huge army of Mudokons and everything like before, but there is like some limited crafting in there, and what that allows you to do is essentially command your guys around, and like things interact with the world. Like, for instance, if there's a structure made of wood and you catch it on fire, it burns down.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like physics simulation going on and all kinds of stuff like that. Like all those structures, like those things can all break apart basically.
Which is insane
They can-
looking. Yeah.
And it's just the amount of physics and stuff going on seemed excessive for a PlayStation 4. Like that kind of stuff there.
Yeah. That is pretty
And it's
excessive for PS4.
It's very organic. Like it plays like a stealth game at times, and other times it's like a weird action thing, and it's a really interesting take on Oddworld, and I'm very excited for this.
Also incredibly brutal. If you compare this to like Munch's Odyssey
Yeah.
in terms of tone, or something like that, this is really brutal. And I really loved the trailer actually. I just and it focused a lot on gameplay, showing off like what the game actually looks like. One thing that I kind of disliked about this conference in some aspects that Rich is talking about earlier was a lot of the later trailers don't show like gaming perspective and movement, like gaming camera movement. Rather, they look like shots from cinematics. Which one thing I would say about the PS4, Xbox One generation is that cinematics started looking really, really good. And And I would like to see that generational difference in the gameplay section and not just cinematics.
And by the way, I didn't mention it there, but Oddworld is running on the Unity engine.
Yes.
Which is surprising when you see just how good it looks. Not Unity, but
that's fine.
I think they've won some awards at this point already as like a showcase developer on that engine, and I think it's one of the best looking games we've seen built in Unity.
So you played it on PC, right, John?
Yeah, I played it on PC at 60 FPS. Okay, so this is Ghostwire Tokyo. And we saw a pre-rendered trailer last year at E3. This looks to be using the engine. So this has obviously been in the works for a while. I'm guessing this is cross-gen, but I don't know.
I would think so too. In terms of some graphical things going on here, it looks kind of cross-genish in some ways. One thing that I kind of disliked about this trailer was some of the camera movements remind me of like pre-rendered things, because like when you're using a game camera, either with the gamepad or mouse, it's not like perfectly snapping in between like movements and things like that, doing it like really smoothly. It reminds me of like kind of like a pre-rendered showcase of what gameplay should look like. I don't know if it is, but like the way the camera moves.
You obviously haven't seen me as a camera user in these games.
That's true.
That's the secret that I always say when I'm creating videos. A lot of times I try to envision that I'm making an E3 trailer. So I'm very deliberate and careful with camera movements and player movements and that kind of such.
So
funny.
In terms of engine,
I know what you mean though here.
In terms of engine, what is this running on? Do we know?
We do not know. Their last games were built on id Tech in some way.
Yeah, like the Void engine or whatever at that point it was called.
No, that was Arcane's.
I'm thinking of Arcane.
That was they forked off from id Tech and did their own thing, and I think I actually can't remember what The Evil Within 2 was using. I thought it was the same.
I think it was another kind of id Tech fork. Or like a pre-id Tech 6 version 5 that was mixed together. It had like per-object blur and things like that, which obviously id Tech 5 does not have.
Interesting point there, because I'd quite like to know what is cross-gen and what is coming on PS4 and what is PS5 exclusive.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the game that I said had a weird lot of aliasing for being at a 1080p stream. Like you can see aliasing in the background of these images, even though it's a 1080p stream, which I'm curious what resolution this game's running at then as a result.
Also, okay, Super Brothers. These are the guys that did that sword and sorcery game for the iPhone, iPad back in the day with that really cool abstract pixel art. It's one of the earliest like big mobile games, I guess you could say, and I really liked it a lot. And I'm sad that mobile gaming's kind of moved away from that stuff.
Yeah, like something more
it's
ambitious.
Much more about now it's more about how can we get money out of you and offer the game for free.
MTX it to death.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a shame. So this is interesting then, because their last game was abstract pixel art. This is like pseudo abstract 3D maybe.
Yeah, I kind of compared it to Homeworld meets Darwinia in terms of like what it looks like visually to me, which I like a lot.
I kind of got some Interstellar vibes from it.
Yeah, good point.
It's hard to know, but I'm happy that they show games like this during the presentation.
Yeah, it's like here it reminds me of that game, like was it Shipbreakers it was originally called, or Karek, or I forget the name of it, the Homeworld spin-off, like where you're like on the planet reclaiming ships. That's what it kind of reminds me here visually. The
thing is though, if not for all the top tier first party games being shown, this would be remarkably similar to the Xbox presentation in some ways, right?
Yeah, where people were disappointed for not showing off the big hitters or extended gameplay segments and things like that. This year was very similar to what we saw with Xbox Series X reveals.
I think the thing is you're just not understanding what the next generation is, what it's actually delivering. What are the developers doing here? Why not have them tell us? What is their vision for the game? Right. Otherwise, you just get these kind of vignettes that you just kind of have to process, and you can, people could come away with all manner of different conclusions about what's actually being put in front of them there.
Yeah, like you have to guess for yourself.
conclusions like the first game that was announced for PS5.
Yeah.
Being shown, Godfall.
One thing that is, I remember was looking back then was the question whether or not it was using ray tracing, and a number of shots in this trailer have SSR artifacts in them.
Oh yeah.
So either it's not using them for a certain number of shots in this trailer, or I don't know what to say. But
there's nothing about this that says, oh yeah, we're pushing the technical envelope. Although it is
60 FPS,
60
right?
frames per second.
Yep.
And native 4K, which is cool. Though it does seem to have a little bit of slowdown in spots, but again, still pre-release.
Yeah, like there you can see the SSR artifacts on that low globe. Can't speak. But yeah.
But that's okay. We're not going to see ray tracing in everything, obviously.
No. Especially games that are going to want to target 60 at high resolution, which is what we kind of expected for this generation. I guess the one thing that we can already kind of mention is the first party title is targeting what looks like in a lot of cases 30 FPS, which I'm starting to think with the way Microsoft is posturing themselves with like talking about 120 FPS and things like that. I kind of think there's going to be a big difference this generation in terms of Microsoft first party games targeting 60 and Sony ones targeting 30 like they kind of did on the PS4.
Right.
I think that's going to be a big difference.
Now this one, Hyper Light Drifter is really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's, to me, I always sort of likened it to as if you combined sort of the aesthetic of something like Fez, but fully in 2D, with Zelda. So it's a really trippy, dreamy kind of Zelda-style game. And It was fantastic. I love that game. But it was pure 2D. Obviously, this has been moved into 3 dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I don't expect a small indie game like this to push any technical boundaries, but I am very intrigued by the game itself.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot, visually of Journey, like these kind of scenes like here where it's like there's only like SSAO like lighting the environment, and then like very plain textureless features and things like that. Reminds me
Journey is a good reference point, but I would also say it reminds me of El Shaddai.
Oh, that's another good one. Yeah,
which was a really cool game on PS3 360.
I always forget that it released on 360.
Yeah, I know that game was sadly forgotten, but it's not amazing, but it's a really interesting game, and I did enjoy it. Okay, so that's cool. 2021. But most of these games are 2020 or 2021, it seems.
Yeah, there was a 2022 announcement game.
Capcom's Pragmata.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, these transitions are cool. I like this.
Is each one different?
It's much better than... Yeah, they're all different, and they're not Nintendo Direct style, thankfully. Oh, yeah, right, Hitman.
Yeah, CGI trailer in the beginning, and then gameplay later on. Which, I'm going to say it again, I like IO. I think their games are amazing. I think their tech's really cool, but I don't like CGI trailers at all anymore. Like, I don't see any reason for pre-rendered graphics with video games looking so good these days.
Well, so I'd like to think from the perspective, like, say you're working on a game like this, you're crunching through it. It's like, oh, we need to have something ready for the show. It may be easy enough to say sort of outsource a CG trailer while working on other stuff in the background.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like the impact it has on production.
That's true. It may like if you just want to get word out about the game and not just be showing a logo, but showing something that visually approaches it. I guess that's the way to see it. But I guess. And
the idea here is that it's a lot of flavor because it shows so many different types of scenes and. Maybe, they couldn't get everything ready to show in real time for that.
Yeah, but what if a movie trailer came out for, say, Star Wars that had video effects, scripting, a ton of stuff that was so much better than the final movie? That's, the games industry likes to parallel itself with the movie industry. And, they just can't do that.
I'm okay with what they've done here, though, where short little trailer and then he discusses the game briefly and then they start showing stuff from the engine.
Thing is, IO's tech is second to none. Hitman is excellent.
Yeah, they're great.
This is going to be astonishing. So I don't see what the point of that sort of thing that we just saw was, especially when they have got something to show here that does look really impressive.
Think about it. Their games have also been really great on console for allowing the option to uncap the frame rate if you want. and I've always liked their technology too. And they've been super heavy on the CPU, like just like all the crowds and the AI interactions in this game. I think next gen is kind of like the perfect point for them, where they have enough CPU power and I would assume enough memory to start crafting experiences that look really, really different.
Also, you notice there, the thing about these IO games is they don't quite go for photorealism, but they have this like density just in the geometry. Like there's so many little fine objects modeled so carefully throughout the environment. And also, Hitman 2, if you remember, had exceptional reflections.
Yeah.
Where they didn't really rely as heavily on SSR. I mean, it was there, but for certain types of surfaces they would do, I guess they were like full planar reflections.
Yeah, for like all the mirrors and even for a lot of the...
So is that the UI of the PS5 that we're looking at there?
I think that's the start.
That might be a tease, yeah.
Isn't it like the startup sound?
Okay, so this is interesting. Like, Astrobot is probably the best game on PSVR and one of the best VR titles ever made. It's so good. Exceptional game. So it's interesting to see basically looks like it's designed to be played directly on your TV rather than, via VR, which is fine. But it's interesting that they shifted like this. But my only concern is that right there, the title, Astro's Playroom. That worries me.
Oh,
because it suggests that it's less of a full platform game experience and more of like some sort of weird mini game collection.
That's what I thought too, John. To be fair, all those Playroom titles are. Like that.
So that was mostly full 4K, but there were some drops to 1728p there, according to Tom. 80% on both axes.
And that should be a 60 FPS game, I'd imagine. I haven't looked at the other trailer though.
Yeah, one thing to note is like I said earlier, that game looked honestly like a 60 FPS title in terms of the density of the frame and things like that. Like things that like you didn't see in Ratchet and Clank. Obviously, Ratchet and Clank.
I don't think they would drop back on that either.
No.
I mean, the original game being VR, they targeted high frame rates, so it makes sense to do that here as well.
I'm a big fan. I want to see all the high frame rates.
Man, things are moving so fast.
I know this game is coming in.
This looks great.
I kind of said it reminded me of a Wes Anderson film in terms of visual styling for some way. I guess that kind of feel the trailer.
This was also this was the Kickstarter one, I think, called Little Devil Inside.
Oh yeah.
So, but it's a cool style. It's hard to know what to make of it though, but it is interesting.
In terms of I don't understand
what is
what's
it?
going. It seems to be some sort of kind of Osmosis Jones or kind of thing going on where you're like inside a human being. Is that what it is? You're like in a little adventure inside a human being. That's the joke that I got here at the end. What is that exactly going on here?
I can confirm that toilet was rendered at native full 4K, as was the rest of the content.
I know. If this was like any other Digital Foundry thing, we would have spent like 20 minutes looking at that toilet.
Much to Richard's dismay. Okay, so yeah. At first I thought it was Little Divil and a sequel to the CDI game. But
So you like raid-faced toilets, Alex, but I presume that wasn't using any form of RT.
I didn't see any. Actually, there used to be a great thread on a forum, like Gaming's Best Toilets, and I'm a big fan of them. So.
Okay, we've got Zion Williamson here talking about NBA 2K something.
I enjoyed Will's comment to this, where every year you can see, or like every generational shift between sports games, you can always see that they look better, but they don't look necessarily always any more real in a lot of aspects. And I thought that was like a very poignant thing, like where I'm assuming the production times and the fact that they're reproducing human characters that are like, you just saw the person there, that you have like the direct comparison always in your mind of what they look like. So they have like a really hard job. I think this looks great, but at the same time, I don't know. I guess
that's a big caveat there in the bottom right. It is actual PS5, but it's pre-alpha. for a game that's coming out next year. I just don't think they had much to show, so there was something that was put together for the event.
So it's got to be something with the lighting, right?
Mm-hmm. It's like overly stark.
It's really dense. It's not quite right.
Yeah, because like usually if you have a place lit directly by sunlight, and it's extremely dark in there, other than the sunlight, you'll see a lot of bounce light going on, which is something obviously which is very expensive to do. So dynamic character model moving through a starkly lit area tends to look pretty fakey. This game, this game looks like a PS3 game. I'm gonna be completely honest.
It does.
Yeah.
But it's from the creator of Octodad, which is a funny little game, and it was not a looker either.
No,
so
not at all.
It's okay. This is cute though. The strawberry, the noises he makes when he moves, that's really funny.
I'm a big fan of the theme song that kicks in later on in this trailer, just because of how silly it is. It's a bit of Rebecca Black Friday style theming where it's just the same words over and over again, and like, yeah, it's very funny. Also reminds me a bit of like really bad YouTube videos for children.
Ouch.
Like just like the visual, I think that's the visual style they're going for though, like that cheap CGI look that is used for bad children's shows.
No, but look, you got spare ribs or like ribs walking around.
Sandwiches on the floor too.
They got the kiwis with the nose thing. The sandwich. I love that thing. The onions are its feet.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It is totally joking on Rare though. I would say
it is
the Rare style. This thing, it's a thing with eyes. That's that's all it is. I would say this
doesn't look bad. This doesn't look bad at all. I mean, it's very basic, but
it's crazy basic.
It's fine. That's okay. Not everything needs to be pushing boundaries, especially from smaller studios, right?
I think that's fine. I'm presuming it's also going to be cross-gen. I'm hoping on PS5 it's also targeting 60. So,
but again, is this the venue for showing off a game like this?
I guess probably not. But I like the fact that they get the exposure. Small devs getting exposure makes me feel warm inside. This song.
Okay, so that's probably launch game then, I'd say.
Yeah, good news, Alex. You don't have to wait too long to get your teeth into that one.
Yeah, it's going to get a 25-minute long video from me.
Okay.
So I was hoping that they would be kind of
More
teasing
abstract.
the form factor of the machine in these little vignettes, but it is just buttons rendered in various different ways.
Actually a way I would have done it is where it shows off like tiny little bits of the entire console each time. Like just like a corner or something like that turns into a stitched image in the end or something like that. Something cool, but nope. Yes, this is, we've kind of known this has existed for way long time, I kind of want to say, and it's always been rumored about for so long, but...
What's that?
Demon Souls, right?
Demon Souls. Yeah, it's...
I think we actually might have announced it in some way, shape or form when we did our Blue Point coverage for Shadow of the Colossus. They said they were working on a remake of a much larger scale than Shadow of the Colossus. And it is this one.
Yeah.
And it does look incredible.
It does. At the time, I had kind of gone back and forth whether it's like, is it Demon Souls or is it going to be like Metal Gear Solid 4?
Oh, it's a good
because their whole point was that they were going to try to redefine the game in significant ways. And this is interesting. I mean, these guys, they know visuals. Their in-house tech is phenomenal.
Yeah, I like what's shadow going across like the particles there. It's cool.
Also, what I'm wondering about is all the trailers for Shadow of the Colossus they did were 30 frames per second, but in the end, the game had a 60 FPS mode that was almost completely locked.
Was it on base PS4?
No.
Unlocked 60 mode?
No, it was just on Pro.
Okay, so that's like, I'm curious then. I mean, this game, obviously 30 FPS trailer, and like the motion blur looks also like that 30 FPS motion blur. But I would imagine they'll also offer a mode. Like there'll be a 30 FPS one and then maybe a 60 FPS mode.
I'd love to see
one thing that I do want to say is though, in terms of like how dense these frames are, like I would not be surprised if the default is 30, like what they show the game at.
Well, Alex, it's already an improvement, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Like you can expect Bluepoint to deliver a stable, evenly paced 30 frames per second. Perhaps unlike From Software.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah.
Plus, they have that really nice, From always had motion blur, but it was rather artifacty.
Mm-hmm. Especially in
And
Demon
Bluepoint's-
Souls and Dark Souls 1.
We were kind of expecting that to be revealed as a launch title, and there was no indication on timing whatsoever, which is a bit disappointing.
Exactly. Aha, and this is the game from Arcane, Deathloop. I'm a big fan of Arcane's work. Huge, actually. Their Texas studio did Prey, which is one of my favorite games of that year. But I also love the Dishonored series. It's kind of a spiritual successor to things like Thief, I suppose. And this looks to continue that. But I think Will put this into an intro. Again, man, Will's got these comments back in the Slack channel where he said it looks like Dishonored, but the world doesn't fall apart when you get caught. You get to do all the fun stuff without the world falling
That
apart.
wasn't his exact words, but yeah, that's definitely
Close enough. Yeah, I can't really. I try to avoid using those words here.
Yeah, in terms of tech, then I would imagine this is running on their, like I said, I think it was called like the Void engine at that point in time,
I think
like
so.
the break off iteration of something in between id Tech 5 and id Tech 6. And I hope that it, at least on PC, that it or at least I'm targeting next gen consoles, that it solves a lot of the weird above 60 FPS problems that Dishonored 2 has. I don't know if we didn't really ever cover it on the channel, but anything above 60 FPS in that game runs really poorly and is like hitchy. I hope they kind of figure out that problem for this game.
They had the same issue on the console versions of Dishonored 2.
Oh, yeah?
Even though they were capped at 30, there was like a weird hitchiness that had to do with the camera motion.
Oh, no.
Like it was locked at 30, but as you moved the camera, it looked jerky somewhat, but it had nothing to do with the frame rate.
Oh, that sucks.
So that's a shame.
You see, arcade games,
But either way,
arcade
this-
games, I think they do need a showcase. They need, the developer to come forward and say, look, this is our vision for this game. Because they have
I
so
agree.
much depth to them. They're different from the standard, and yet a standard edited trailer here just makes it look like a standard FPS, which, we know from this developer that it's not going to be that by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
Exactly.
It's like one of these, like we were talking about during the PS4 reveal that we did just like last week or so, where games that have so much more depth require so much more gameplay showcases where they talk about the systems. This is a systems game. It's immersive sim styled, I'm assuming, in a lot of ways. Yet you don't get that in this trailer, beyond the cool visuals.
Yeah, and the visuals are something I always appreciate in their games, where they kind of go for what I might describe as hyper-realism. Like there's elements of realism with them, but they're very stylized.
Yeah.
And I think it makes an interesting juxtaposition of the visuals there.
This reminds me of almost like Spy versus Spy, kind of 70s, grindhousey, also a little bit too.
A little bit.
There's the everyone's favorite Klob, by the way.
You see, I know this is going to be a great game, but it's only because I know of Arcane as a studio.
This is true, yeah.
I mean, the trailer's not bad or anything. It's just a lot of flashes of things you can do without really giving you an idea of.
Yeah,
But I like how they're actually referencing themselves as Arcane Lyon
yeah, that's cool.
now.
Yeah,
So separating that they are the French studio.
first-person weapon models
And
look great though. That's one thing I'll say. Like,
They do.
How do you rate the hand movements? I know you're well into your hand movements.
I also think they look great. Very snappy, very stylized.
Alex's top 5 hand movements. It's got to happen.
Okay. So this is Resident Evil 8,
Yeah, this is
which is interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here because we're pretty sure this is cross-gen, right?
Yeah, I mean, it looks suitably like an RE engine game, although some of the environmental detail and the later shots seems like a step above what they've done before.
Oh yeah, like the indoor environments in Resident Evil 7, like inside the beginning of the house, kind of like low textury and like they were good looking for a first-person game, I would say, but a little bit like low resolution and like geometric edges were visible. The shots inside the mansion here later on that you see were very, very good looking. There's some aliasing.
I would say
what's that about?
Their environment detail improved a lot with Resident Evil 2 and 3, but also the aliasing you mentioned, that's something you saw a lot in Resident Evil 2 and 3, if you recall.
Yeah, right.
Like with their AA solution, there was still a lot of shimmering and in-surface aliasing, including and edge aliasing throughout. So,
you know, and
why is the frame rate so low?
I don't
in the
know.
scene, though?
I don't know. It's so weird.
I don't think it's gonna be that way. I mean, they've been shipping 60 FPS or on base consoles uncapped games since RE7 on this engine, so I assume it's gonna be 60.
I hope it's 60 as well too, because obviously these games are just gonna play that much better at it. Visually, though, in terms of art style, I really like this kind of, I don't know how you'd call it, like countryside European look to the game.
Yeah, the village.
The village. Yeah, very similar to that. And it's a bit of a callback to Resident Evil 4 in some ways, in terms of visual style. Yeah. And I like that a lot. And this looks great.
That area with the chandelier, that's nuts. That looks great.
That's great looking. Yeah.
It's kind of weird, this one, because some of the character models look great and others don't.
Yeah, it's mixed. We'll have to see more, obviously. Werewolves. That looks great.
Yeah. It's kind of like a...
I love this, that they did it just like with Kitchen.
Yeah, that's right.
For Resident Evil 7.
I forgot about that.
But then the last shot of this trailer is very important because it's Chris Redfield.
Yeah.
He's back. And he looks chunkier and also somehow like more grim.
Yeah, he looks kind of like, what's the character who plays Logan? What's his name? The guy who plays
Hugh
Logan
Jackman.
from the X-Men. He looks like Hugh Jackman a bit, except without the beard, obviously.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, here we go. What's next?
Something hopefully with more gameplay? Probably.
I mean, to be fair to all of this stuff, this is during a pandemic when this stuff was produced.
Yeah,
so.
right. Yes. So there's a lot going on here visually. I'm pretty sure those are ray trace reflections. Oh wait, no. It's a little bit hard to tell, but I think they're mixing SSR with ray trace reflections, because around character models in this trailer, like when they obscure things behind them, the reflections still stay there, but there's like a line going down them, which makes me think they're doing like Battlefield 5 style SSR almost, where there's SSR mixed with ray tracing.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially in terms of just getting your performance levels up, is to combine the two. And you get a little bit of extra precision there, but it's not like the difference between having, say, cube maps with SSR, where they're vastly different, where combining these two techniques together, you get really nice results that aren't too distracting. Because you're right, you see that
like around her hair
there.
Yeah, like there's that, but then but at the same time though, I think for the like more like scenery. So the thing is with RT reflections is like the more glossy they are, or I'd say the more rough they are. Sorry, the more rough they are, the harder it is. I just showed that recently in a video where if you turn up the roughness cutoff in a game, it makes them super expensive. So if you do SSR, for example, for rougher materials, but then have like the more mirror-like ones being RT reflections, then you get a lot of the same visual look for most scenes, I would say, but save a lot on performance. But obviously not for all scenes.
That's right. Now, this is very conceptual, I think, at this point. And the concept is interesting for sure, but it is a 2022 game from Capcom, and it's hard to really know what to make of it at this point.
Yeah. I'm assuming it's RE Engine as well, too.
I would imagine.
I would imagine, too. There's a lot going on here, though, that I like. Just curious what the gameplay is.
None of the demos look quite as good as Deep Down's original trailer.
No, right? Huh? Deep Down still, though, if you like put that trailer in here right now, it still looks really, really good, I'd say.
Still the GOAT.
Still it.
Okay, there's the logo. More first party.
Yeah.
Is this Horizon 2?
It is.
It is.
Yeah, this is
The
this
Gigaton.
one.
There's a lot here visually, which is really, really good. Things built off of the last game, like the volumetrics, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of detail in the foliage going far away. Like Horizon, the first one had foliage, obviously, but it definitely not go as far into the distance as you see in this trailer. Let alone have so much secondary movement, right?
The way they're rendering these underwater scenes, it's quite beautiful there. I really like that.
Oh, I do. I love it too. Like the volumetrics underwater and tons of fish, manta rays, or
tessellated crabs.
tessellated crabs. One thing that I do think that they did for some of these shots is I don't obviously think I think these are like specific models, by the way, for the cutscene.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Not like the ones you'll actually see in game when you're walking around.
No.
For those specific shots, because like you can see like a thin line on the sand where like the pebbles disappear, just for like whatever. But I love this creature design, by the way.
Reminds me of God of War, actually, with that everything sort of shaking and moving around on his back like that.
Yeah. Also,
the clouds there were interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty. I'm curious about how they did that in the current cloud system that they have, because the cloud system that they currently have cannot do dramatic movements really quickly.
Well, I mean, it's been years, right?
Yeah, it's been years. So, and they have obviously so much more power under the hood now.
It seemed like a very scalable solution that could be adjusted to account for that, but it would require basically more processing power, because we already knew in terms of GPU cost what it was on PS4. So they have more power available, so they can increase the precision.
And it looks like native 4K as well. No checkerboarding.
Yes, that's right. It does look like native 4K, as you would hope. It's going to be 4K 30 for sure, I'd say.
I think
wow, look at that
too, and the waves breaking in this shot. Ooh, that looks great. Yeah, the geometric density on like the close-up objects are one thing that I'm a big fan of.
I mean, this is that's what Guerrilla does, though, is they really push the envelope with visual effects. The generation.
Yeah.
They did it with Killzone Shadowfall at the reveal of PS4.
Wow.
And I kind of wish they had done a Shadowfall style demo.
Right.
To show the game being played.
That is the moment from the PS4 reveal. The fact that we got a slice of what it's actually going to be like to load up the game and play.
It was accurate.
And you're quite right. It was real time. It was authentic. It was awesome. And it was what we actually got when we got our boxes home on November 2013.
Yeah. Kill.
But this is further away, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I would imagine too. Were there any shots that were like gameplay camera shots, or was it mainly cinematic shots? Okay. Yeah.
It was cinematic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that was probably one of the most impressive things we've seen from next gen thus far.
Yeah, it definitely is. I would be curious. Obviously, there's so little to know. Like, I would love to know how they're doing their indirect lighting. I would love to, there's so many things that I would like to know.
I'm wondering how they've changed that, because obviously in Horizon Zero Dawn, they had many different bakes for different times of day that they were interpolate between. But you'd think perhaps they could actually try some new techniques.
I would hope so too.
For this one.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, it's hard to say. We'll find out soon enough, I'm sure.
Studio Guerrilla are just awesome. They've just been so cooperative with us in the past, and we've got some great stories from them. And
I love those guys.
If we can get that same kind of access again for Horizon 2, the mind boggles at the stories we could tell. It just looks incredible.
Beyond that, when we've done it in the past, our production capabilities were much less.
Yeah.
And we've also improved a lot since then, so I feel like we could do even more this time. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is fun, just all these developers.
So again, it's similar to what they did in the PlayStation 4 reveal, but they've done it in a much more tighter presentation format, a lot more impactful.
Oh, PS9, the PS9 balls.
Yeah.
Oh no, they're actually fish eggs.
Thank you, Chad. Yeah, it's weird. It does take quite a long time to get to So let's just start talking about it right away.
So this is the system reveal, to cut to the chase.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess your opinions right off the bat?
I mean, I appreciate that it's a unique design, and I think it will grow on me. It's interesting. I'm mixed right now, but I think it could be really cool. My only concern, based on the size of the disc slot compared to other systems, is that this seems to be the largest console ever made.
It's huge.
Yeah, it looks big.
It's ginormous.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes the Xbox Series X look kind of diminutive by comparison.
It makes the PS3 look diminutive.
The original Xbox.
And the original Xbox. Exactly.
In terms of design, not just visuals, I think it's important to talk about cooling. It looks like it has like vents along all of it, more or less, to keep it cool. And given what we've heard about the PS5 targeting basically full throttle all the time, above what you would say is like the balanced point for the GPU in terms of how much wattage it gives out, that does explain it a bit in terms of why it needs maybe this intense amount of open airspace because there's vents along this entire thing. Like even my PC case doesn't have vents along the entire part of it. You know?
No. I am concerned about the form factor, though. Like, it looks like you can, in fact, lay it down, which is nice, but it's so big. I'm curious to see how it fits into my current setup.
And now they reveal the set-top box without the disk drive. Which, I don't know what's going on with that. I can tell you that the cost of a UHD Blu-ray drive is extremely low. It's like maybe $20 or thereabouts. So by removing it, they're not creating a SKU that's going to be $100 cheaper, unless they're going to take a huge loss on those units.
My guess is that they will take a huge loss and drive people towards using digital, which increases their revenue from PSN sales, I would imagine, and it might be worth it for them. But let it be known, I am not a fan of SADs. All digital. No, just digital editions in general. It is something I hate, and something else to consider there. If you have a library of PS4 games on disc, for instance, that kills the backwards compatibility feature there. Also, no movie playback. I mean, I do actually like to get movies I like on disc.
So it is choice for the user, though. But it is a choice that is very much towards funneling people to the PlayStation Store, where typically you pay more money for games.
Yeah.
Precisely.
One thing that's interesting about the design is, since it's crazy asymmetric with the disk drive, it almost looks like it's an afterthought. I almost wonder if it was designed first without the disk drive, and then the disk drive was molded on afterward, just with the way it looks.
I'd imagine they put a bit more thought into system design than that. The sort of bolt-on kludge for the drive.
It looks bolted on like a bulge, like it's growing on, like the PlayStation 5. I don't know. There's just a lot that I'm curious about in terms of thermodynamics with this box.
Yeah.
Obviously, because PS4 Pro are pretty hot and loud at times, depending upon your model, or like it's sometimes user by user different. So I hope that this radically different looking design is something that makes it quiet and cool.
That's my thought right there, is that they're being reactive to the PS4's issues with volume and cooling problems, I suppose. And they want to ensure that this runs cooler and quieter, because that's been sort of a major complaint with the PS4
But it
line.
is huge. I mean, I'm looking at my Xbox One X now, which is about, when it's stacked vertically, it's about the same size as the Series X. This is a lot taller. This is
really big.
Really big.
You know what? It's actually comparable in size to some certain CDI units.
Oh, thankfully, John, you brought it up.
Not as deep, but it's similar in terms of like height.
See, in the audience now, Audie's ears have pricked up. You mentioned the magic word.
Exactly. CDI would.
So good.
You've just secured a purchase for Sony there, I think.
Exactly. I'm curious to see it either way. I think it's an interesting design, and I want to see how it looks in the living room, basically. But we'll see.
Big box, big cooler. again, adds to the expense. And this is the other thing we need to discuss. They haven't announced the price. Right. I think that's wrong, at this point.
You really thought they were going to do it, weren't you,
I thought they had to.
And your reasoning was sound.
Because it's almost like storing bad news. If you're not telling us the price now,
exactly,
all we can think is that it's going to be extremely expensive and you're kind of holding back until the last possible moment. And I think that's the wrong strategy. I think if they'd actually just shown Horizon and said, look, this is the future of gaming, but this is how much it's going to cost, that's the way to do it, to juxtapose, what you're getting for the price that you're investing.
Yeah.
Hiding the price point at this point, I just think it's storing up bad news. But, there we go. Okay, guys, so we've just seen our first glimpse of PlayStation 5. A lot of games there. We saw the actual hardware. No pricing, though, which I found personally quite disappointing. So, let's go around the table. First of all, John, final thoughts.
I thought it was a much better reveal than what we saw with the Xbox stuff. Mainly because they had some heavy-hitting titles there that hadn't been previously announced. We got to see a demonstration of what the SSD can bring to the table with stuff like Ratchet & Clank, with the interdimensional travel. That really gives us an idea. It's a good way to demonstrate to the audience that has been asking, well, what does this mean for gameplay? And I feel like this is one of the first examples we've seen where what they're doing with that wouldn't have been feasible on a mechanical drive, I'd say. Like, it's just spooling too much data too quickly. So that's cool. And obviously, Guerrilla pulled out all the stops with Horizon 2, which looks just as good as I would have hoped. Like, obscene detail, density, the quality and everything is absurd. And for anybody worried that that's not representative, I kind of think it is, because I gather that the game is actually not that far off, really. We didn't get a date, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be next year. And after getting burned by the Killzone 2 CG trailer, they've been very upfront with their reveals. Killzone Shadowfall was exactly what you got, with just minor tweaks. The early stuff for Horizon, dead on. Killzone 3 even, so I think this is going to follow suit. And you can see sort of the real-time rendering elements in it as well. But then, and then there's the console, which we just talked about, which I think is okay. It's kind of neat, but it's huge.
Quickly give you my overall impressions. I think it should have been leaner, should have been more focused on the actual future of gaming. I like the wide scope, but I'd have liked to have seen actual gameplay. And I think the negative reaction to the Microsoft show from a few weeks ago, maybe that sort of feedback should have been taken on board. But, I mean, we saw Horizon 2, we saw Ratchet, it looked absolutely incredible. I can't wait to see what this machine is going to be delivering once we've actually got it in our hands. And the machine itself, maybe I'll do a video about that. I've got some thoughts about that. But yeah, amazing stuff. And Alex, why don't you round it all off for us?
I loved Horizon Zero Dawn 2 a lot. I also liked
It's not Zero Dawn, Alex.
Horizon 2, whatever it's called. I loved it. I loved the way it looked. There's a lot that I have questions about how it works. Embark's game to me also looked really, really good. I was also really happy to see demonstrations of ray tracing where we can kind of point at it and say, like, this is actually ray traced reflections. Something that was almost impossible to do in Xbox Series X's video game showcase, even though that they might have said it like afterwards. The trailers didn't lend themselves to it, and I preferred the way it was shown off here. This like next gen tech that we can actually see, and with really good looking games. I guess one thing that I'm a little curious about is which games are 30 and which ones are 60, because obviously the stream and the trailers released, like the Resident Evil 8 trailer being 30 FPS has me concerned. I'm really curious why that is 30 FPS trailer. But other than that, I think it was a pretty okay showcase. I just wish for more gameplay in the end.
Yeah, I think the stream quality is the biggest complaint I've got against it. If you're showcasing the future of gaming, when you're showing games running at native 4K, to come out with a stream that's at 1080p with a really low bitrate, 30 frames per second, we don't really know what kind of flavor to get from those games. I think it's a big problem, and I really hope that Microsoft can up the ante there with their big showcase that's coming in July. But that's where we're going to end things for now. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Ring the bell there, that bell, for instant notifications whenever Digital Foundry posts new YouTube content. And of course, the Digital Foundry Patreon. If you love what we do, if you want to support the team more directly and get pristine quality video downloads of everything we do, well, within reason, we don't have pristine quality assets for this one. Well, there it is, www.digitalfoundry.net. But that's all from us for now. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of this Marathon DF Direct. And we'll see you soon. Thanks a lot.